With the WINN FM News, I am Kevin Brown.
And I am Yolana Weeks.
Our top stories: Canadian High Commissioner designate talks St. Kitts Nevis relations and Trump tariffs.
Consumer Affairs Department report high compliance with VAT relief holiday.
ECCB and World Bank collaborate on resilient renewable energy infrastructure project. Grenada deportees will pose a serious challenge to country, says Senator. St. Lucians in U.S. fear deportation after rumors spread. Internationally, President Trump restates plan for U.S. takeover of Gaza, with Palestinians resettled in region. Now, the details. High Commissioner Designate Brenda Wills of Canada recently appeared on WINN's Island Tea on February 5th, 2025 to discuss the deep-rooted relationship and bilateral ties between Canada and St. Kitts and Nevis. The High Commissioner Designate also discussed the broader implications of recent U.S. trade policies, particularly President Trump's tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China, and the possible consequences of these tariffs on consumer prices and international trade dynamics. Canada and St. Kitts and Nevis have a 41-year diplomatic relationship, which has marked significant milestones. High Commissioner Wills highlighted the foundational ties built over decades, encompassing personal connections, economic collaboration, and cooperative initiatives across multiple sectors, most notably establishing the Canada-CARICOM Strategic Partnership in October 2023 has paved the way for enhanced collaboration in building inclusive economies, bolstering regional security, and advancing climate resilience.
Prime Minister Drew went to Canada for that, and there's three areas of focus there, which is building inclusive and sustainable economies, bolstering regional security, and advancing climate resilience. So we're going to build on that. That's going to be my role here in my tenure for 4 years. I'm going to be the High Commissioner. And so I look forward to maintaining and strengthening those relations with St. Kitts and Nevis.
Wills discussed the importance of climate response mechanisms, indicating that Canada works closely with Caribbean nations, including St. Kitts and Nevis, through organizations like SEDIMA to enhance disaster response and recovery efforts. Climate change remains a pressing issue for the region, necessitating strong partnerships and prompt action from Canada to build climate resilience. Another topic of discussion was the Electronic Travel Authorization ETA system launched in June 2023 and its potential impact on tourism and commercial exchanges between the two nations. As Wills pointed out, this system simplifies travel for citizens, fostering the flow of tourists from Canada while facilitating easier promotional and investment opportunities for Canadian businesses in St. Kitts and Nevis. Wills emphasized ongoing efforts to enhance trade relations and identified key sectors such as renewable energy, infrastructure, and clean technologies as having substantial potential for growth. The agenda includes a more profound exploration of business opportunities in these areas, which showcases Canada's readiness to build upon existing trade ties.
And on the commercial front, my background's actually trade and investment. So you mentioned business, and so one of the things I'm going to meet with the Chamber of Commerce after this and explore where are there opportunities for Canadian business to pursue down here. So then hopefully we'll be getting even more Canadian business travel.
One crucial issue addressed during the discussion was the recent announcement of tariffs imposed by the U.S. on Canada, Mexico, and China. These tariffs could have far-reaching repercussions on international trade, particularly between U.S. and Canada. Wills note that Canada's relationship with the U.S. is one of the strongest globally, particularly regarding trade and border security.
We announced with the U.S. A pause in our respective tariffs and our commitment, and that was based on Canada's commitment to stronger border security.
The 30-day pause on the planned U.S. tariffs was a step towards solidifying economic cooperation amidst the complex backdrop of international trade tensions. The current economic climate suggests that implementing tariffs could lead to a myriad of economic challenges, including disruptions to supply chains and increased consumer prices. According to economic analysis, tariffs typically impose higher costs on imported goods, often passed on to consumers. Such a move could raise prices for various goods, including essential commodities and trade items, compounding consumer and producer challenges. For instance, recent projections indicate that tariffs could increase the price of imported goods by an average of 10% and even higher for domestically produced items, which might jump by 14%, which indicates a significant inflationary pressure on consumers, which could promote shifts in purchasing behavior and overall economic activity. Wills acknowledged the uncertainty surrounding the international trade landscape with the active presence of tariffs.
But the trickle effects would be hard to estimate, other than it would disrupt supply chains and cause increased prices for consumers and for producers, and the need to find alternate sources.
This reflects the broader apprehension about trade relations between Canada and the US and how these tariffs affect a spectrum of international partnerships across CARICOM countries. Wills underscored Canada's long-standing commitment to CARICOM countries as a steadfast partner, reinforcing the importance of collective goals among Caribbean nations. The framework established by the Canada-CARICOM Strategic Partnership will enable further discussions on shared priorities while fostering collaboration on economic and environmental challenges. During her conversation with host Hortensia, Wills expressed her enthusiasm for her role as a High Commissioner and her eagerness to navigate the intricate balance of trade, investment, and diplomatic relations among her 7 accredited countries. Having met with various leaders in St. Kitts and Nevis, Wills is optimistic about the burgeoning opportunities for collaboration and the integral role Canada can play in the region in the future. High Commissioner-designate Brenda Wills' remarks illuminate a multifaceted relationship between Canada and St. Kitts and Nevis, marked by history, economic potential, and shared challenges, such as climate change and the implications of tariffs. As the economic landscape evolves amid tariff discussions and their potential impact on consumer prices, its influence resonates throughout Caribbean communities, necessitating strong cooperation and proactive measures to foster resilience and economic prosperity. The upcoming weeks will be pivotal as stakeholders pursue pathways towards mutually beneficial agreements in light of recent geopolitical developments, ensuring that the bonds between Canada and St. Kitts and Nevis remain robust and forward-looking.
The Consumer Affairs Department encourages all businesses to comply with the VAT Relief Holiday Initiative implemented by the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. Businesses are encouraged to pass down the cost-saving benefits to the consumers, and similarly, consumers are urged to report businesses that are suspected of being non-compliant. Tricia Delaney, Communications Officer at the Consumer Affairs Department, was a guest on the February 5 edition of In Focus and shared how the Consumer Affairs Department ensures transparency and fairness in the market.
We continue to educate the public on their rights, and we urge consumers to report any suspicious business activities that they may encounter. We also try to work alongside with the businesses and just to ensure that they know what their responsibilities are during this tax reduction time, which is to pass on some of the savings to the consumers. Now, I don't expect that they'll want to pass on all, but we are saying pass on some to the consumers at least.
According to Delaney, reports of non-compliance on the part of businesses have been few, but she advised the consumers to always keep their receipts and not be afraid to report or challenge businesses about their deception.
Happy to say it hasn't been many complaints, but there have been complaints that businesses have not reduced their prices despite the lower VAT rate on their receipts. So in some cases, businesses have maintained the same total price, but a lower VAT rate is on the receipt, which is deceptive and it is unfair to consumers. So in these cases, we have to investigate and then we take our findings to the cabinet. But like I said, it hasn't been many cases like that. In a time like this, where we have the VAT relief holiday, we are asking consumers to keep their receipts and compare prices from before the tax reduction. We are also asking them to report cases, because what we find is people don't report the cases. We'll go online and go on Facebook, and then we'll see people talking and people will be saying this is happening, but no one actually called in or came into the office and reported the cases. Also, we want consumers to be vigilant and ask questions when they are checking out. Don't be afraid to challenge the businesses if you feel like you are being overcharged. Don't just think you're being overcharged and not ask a question. Ask questions. Get your answers. If you are not satisfied, come and file a complaint.
The Consumer Affairs Department also confirmed a small number of reports of price increases at some establishments, but owners, when questioned, associated those costs with other external factors.
Well, while the VAT has been reduced, we have noticed that in a few cases, and when I say a few cases, it's a small number, businesses have increased prices, but they are claiming it is due to other factors such as supply chain costs, inflation, or increased operating expenses. So what we do, we investigate those claims and we try to see if they are justified or if they are trying to offset the VAT reduction and pocket the savings or gain more from the savings. But like I said, it hasn't been many instances where we saw any price increases, but we have to keep in mind there are other factors at play when it comes to pricing.
The Consumer Affairs Department monitor compliance by business using different methods, including price comparisons, comparing current prices to pre-2025 prices, consumer reports, investigating reports made by consumers, and receipt analysis, reviewing receipts to ensure the correct VAT is applied.
The latest episode of ECCB Connects focused on a new financing initiative to boost renewable energy projects in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, ECCU. The Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, ECCB, is partnering with the World Bank on the Resilient Renewable Energy Infrastructure Project, as detailed by Neha Muki, a senior energy consultant at the World Bank, and Kiran Saint-Omer, the ECCB's lead on the project.
What we are working on together with the ECCB and the countries in the ECCU is a resilient renewable energy infrastructure financing facility. The goal is to develop resilient clean energy infrastructure, which is utility scale renewable energy plants, large scale that is, and do this in a way that it attracts private sector capital. It mobilizes private capital to build, construct, and invest in these renewable energy plants that generate clean electricity.
The facility aims to deliver cleaner, more reliable, locally sourced electricity, ensuring stable and affordable prices for ECCU residents. By reducing reliance on imported fossil fuels, the initiative seeks to enhance the resilience of ECCU economies.
And the overall goal here is to provide cleaner, reliable, indigenous sourced electricity, which also provides more stable and affordable electricity prices for the people, for the residents in the ECCU. The goal here is also to increase resilience, not just of the electricity sector, but also resilience of the economies, because the ECCU economies spend a lot on import bills for fossil fuels that power the electricity sector right now, that powers the economy.
The project will employ financial innovation, coordination, and collaboration among countries to drive investment in the renewable energy sector. Muhi noted the gap in large-scale, utility-scale investments.
Before we embarked on developing in this initiative, this facility, we took stock of what is happening in the region already. There have been different initiatives, efforts, but they all have different focuses. For example, some existing initiatives focus on distributed energy, which is rooftop solar, small-scale investments. But there's been a gap to look at large-scale, utility-scale investments in a more concerted way, in a focused way. In a way that focuses specifically on the unique challenges that the ECCU member states face.
The facility will support project preparation, competitive procurement, and financial innovation to reduce barriers to commercial financing.
In addition to that, this facility brings together a whole ecosystem of solutions for the renewable energy sector. It will be providing support on project preparation. It will be providing support on procurement, competitive procurement, so that the pricing for these renewable energy contracts are more attractive. Then it provides financial innovation to help reduce barriers for financing, commercial financing coming in to develop these projects.
Furthermore, the project includes country-specific activities to strengthen national power grids and ensure the seamless integration of renewable energy sources. Kieran St-Omer outlined the significant benefits expected from the initiative once it is fully operational in 2025.
Once this facility is fully operationalized in 2025, we expect that it will be able to address those critical barriers for project development and financing in the ECCU.
The key offerings include technical support, advisory services, capacity strengthening, and direct financing for clean energy infrastructure.
So the key service offerings will include technical support and advisory when we think of legal transaction costs, specialists like engineers that are needed throughout the life of projects to ensure that they are implemented appropriately. Capacity strengthening and implementation of projects is a key support area that the facility will address. As we know, for instance, the staffing challenges of renewable energy project implementation units in the region is a critical issue that all our member states do face.
These improvements are significant given the obsolescence of existing power generation infrastructure. The facility will also offer credit enhancements, such as guarantees, to diversify project risks related to regulatory, political, and natural disaster factors. St-Omer highlighted the current lack of insurance products for large-scale solar production.
Right now, we do not have any insurance products for utility scale or large-scale solar production on the generation side. So that is an area that the facility will help to make a more attractive or bring incentives to reduce the interest rate costs that our developers and governments have to incur for funding those projects.
The initiative is expected to significantly accelerate the transition to renewable energy in the ECCU, resulting in economic and environmental benefits across the region. In regional news, Grenada deportees will pose a serious challenge to country, says Senator. Grenada Broadcasting Network has that story.
Addressing the matter in Tuesday's sitting of the Upper House, Labour Representative Senator Andre Lewis said it's obvious that the government will have to take the lead and stakeholders give whatever support is necessary as undocumented Grenadians in the U.S. face deportation.
It will pose serious challenges for us, and therefore it requires a very integrated, collaborative approach, not just by the government as the official heads, but as for us as a society. Obviously, the government will have to take the lead, yes, and we need to give whatever support that is required.
Lewis said that citizens need to think about the psychological impact the deportation can have on those who are affected directly and indirectly.
Dig deep. It has serious implications. We are where we are. The United States will do what it has to do. It will do what it has to do. So our focus has to do, what could we do to help the landing to be more accommodating.
The Trump administration has officially informed Grenada that it will deport several Grenadians. It is not clear if they are people who served time in jail for criminal offenses or people who are described as undocumented migrants. President of the Senate, Dr. Decima Williams, agrees that the influx of deportees will have an impact, but is encouraging citizens to be mindful that not all returnees are deportees.
There is a distinction between a deportee and a returnee, and it might be incumbent on us to keep that in mind as we receive nationals coming back. The returnees are persons who have not committed any crime or any wrongdoing, but they're involuntarily returned here. And then there are the deportees, who are persons who have been charged, maybe convicted with a crime, and returned.
Cherry Blackman Stephen, GBN News.
St. Lucians in U.S. fear deportation after rumors spread, DBS St. Lucia reports.
The recent policy changes following the new administration has raised tensions within the diaspora, particularly after the signing of a deportation bill, leaving St. Lucian residents fearful. The situation has had a negative impact on businesses, particularly in the tri-state area, with many closing their doors in response to the uncertainty.
We recently had our monthly meeting, which was held this past Monday, and he actually updated us on what the consulate is doing, what he is doing, his office is doing. And from all indications, he has been attending many meetings and just giving us a heads up on what persons in the diaspora in this area should be doing, especially the St. Lucians. So first and foremost, I can tell you is that the consulate, along with the Consul General, they are there to assist. So our recommendation is that if you're unsure, rather than taking word of mouth or what you're hearing on the street, you go to them directly. From what he's telling us, there are lots of rumors.
De Turville urges the community to secure their legal documents as soon as possible to avoid being affected by the deportation measures. He emphasizes the importance of staying informed and not falling victim to viral misinformation.
The persons who are most affected and should be the most worried, I guess, would be persons with a criminal record. So those are the ones that they're going after first. So from what he told us, St. Lucians who are here maybe 20, 30 years or more, not that they shouldn't be worried, but what is being told to them on the street is not so. So we're recommending everyone actually go to the consulate directly, or at least call. CG has mechanisms in place to assist you to have those question and answers, and they have links to a host of organizations on the ground willing to work with persons in the community.
He also shared the impact on local events, including the Miss St. Lucia USA show, which saw a lower attendance as residents preferred to remain out of the public's eye. The committee showed understanding, offering refunds to the patrons.
Going into the show, we got indication that it would affect the persons who had purchased a few tickets for them, their children. They were asking for refunds, and so in some cases, we had to refund those persons and at least understand where they were coming from. In preparing for this pageant, we were out late, we were in the streets late. I actually live out of state in Pennsylvania, driving into New York, driving into regular places known as Little Caribbean, the Caribbean hub. You saw it where the streets were empty.
Despite the challenges, de Turville noted that the Four Roots Entertainment pageant was successful, with Taylor St. Rose from Barbano crowned Miss St. Lucia USA 2025. He also commented on the noticeable changes in the environment due to ICE patrols, which have caused areas previously bustling with Caribbean nationals, including St. Lucians, to become quieter.
I don't think at this time it's something that the government or the population in St. Lucia would have to worry about. And again, CG and the consulate office would speak to that. They have much more information on that. But from what we gather, the numbers being thrown around, nowhere near that. Even the numbers persons in New York are throwing around, nowhere near that. St. Lucia, luckily for us, our numbers are nowhere near other countries.
De Turville concluded by commenting on the government's preparedness for the potential return of deportees, stressing that more needs to be done to support them. For the DBS News World, Manasseh Stanislas reporting.
We now bring you these international reports.
Donald Trump has doubled down on his plan for the United States to take control of Gaza. The AFP news agency is reporting that Hamas has responded by urging Arab countries to resist the pressure from the US president and hold an urgent Arab summit. Well, Mr. Trump posted details of his thinking on social media, saying the territory would be handed over to America by Israel once the fighting there had ended. There'd be no US troops on the ground. He also said the US would work with teams from around the world to rebuild Gaza in what he promised would be, in his words, one of the greatest and most spectacular developments of its kind. Well, let's talk now to our North America correspondent Nomia Iqbal and our Gaza correspondent Rushdie Abu Alouf. And Nomia, to you first of all, despite all the condemnation we've had since Donald Trump made those first remarks, he's given more details. What has he been saying?
He has given more details, but paradoxically, it's really vague as well. So as you said there, he said that Gaza will be turned over to the US by Israel at the end of the war. He said that Israel would, presumably Israel will expel all Palestinians, and then the US would become the occupying power. All this would be done without US troops on the ground. And then Gaza would be rebuilt, not using American money. Palestinians would be resettled elsewhere. But it is confusing because, bear in mind as well that Donald Trump has sold himself to his supporters, and this is what they love about him, as someone who doesn't believe in nation building. He doesn't believe in getting involved in conflicts overseas. So why would he want to get involved in such a complicated conflict, one of the hardest conflicts that has, sort of been really difficult for Americans to solve for decades? And so it looks like he's trying to have his cake and eat it, coming up with lots of different ways of, saying that, well, this is what our plan is. The other question is, what are you going to do about Hamas? How will you dislodge Hamas from Gaza? Because if Arab nations are going to get involved in the rebuilding of Gaza, which is presumably what Mr. Trump wants, they want an answer to that question. And Mr. Trump hasn't really answered that. And we know that the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, has said that he wants the war to end only when Hamas is completely destroyed. But defense experts say that probably is not likely. It's impossible. So how long can this war go on for? Because Mr. Trump also wants peace. He wants the war to end ASAP. So whilst, yes, he's given us more details, it's so full of contradictions.
Nomia, just briefly, in those original comments, he talked about moving Palestinians out. In enforcing that, it would be permanent. The White House forced to actually row back and water down those comments. Yeah,
they're now using the term temporary. It's a temporary relocation. And his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, is also trying to walk back these comments. This often happens with Donald Trump. He proposes things and then the members of his own kind of team are trying to sort of explain what he actually meant. And Mr. Rubio said, this wasn't meant as a hostile takeover. This is actually a generous offer. We are showing willingness to rebuild and relocate. But I think for a lot of people, certainly Arab nations who are worried about this, for people for Gazans, I think the damage has already been done in some ways, and there's still a load of confusion around exactly what Mr. Trump's proposal is. But one thing I should add, Matthew, is that the big question about what happens to Gaza post-war has not really been answered. Even Mr. Netanyahu has dodged that question. So in some respects, Mr. Trump is trying to offer some sort of solution as to what happens to Gaza in the future. But it is, of course, a hugely controversial one, and one that's probably not going to get any backing from members of his own party.
Nomia, thanks very much. Let's bring in Rushdie. And a twin thought, Rushdie. Tell me more about what people in Gaza have been saying to you, reacting to what Donald Trump has said, and that call for an urgent Arab summit. Tell me more about that and whether that's likely to happen.
Yeah, there is very big confusion because a statement after statement from Donald Trump, but nobody knows exactly what's the plan is. But no, for Palestinians, no matter what the plan is, they're all rejecting the idea of displacement or leaving Gaza. In the official level, the Palestinian Authority issuing a statement, Hamas is issuing a statement saying that we reject that and we call the Arabs to hold urgent summit. But on the ground, in practical level, people are continue to return back to the north. So they are in practice refusing the idea by returning back to Gaza City. Well, they all know that Gaza is almost destroyed, especially the northern part that was subject to a very tough Israeli operation, what meant to force the people out of their villages and towns in the north. We have seen a 100-day operation by the Israelis, and everybody believed that this was the idea behind that operation, is to force people out. Many people, yes, they left, but those who remains, Palestinians call them heroes because they fought for the last minute this idea of displacement. In general, all Palestinians, even though some of the people who are wanted to leave Gaza, they want to have their right to return. I've spoken to Palestinians in Gaza today. Many of them said, yes, we are happy to leave Gaza, but we need to have our right to return, not like what happened back in 1948 when their grandfathers and their family left what is now called Israel, and they haven't returned back. So the people on political level, they want to have their rights to stay in Gaza, and even if they leave, they want to have the right to return.
Scientists from the European Union say last month was the hottest January on record. Temperatures last month were 1.75 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels and slightly warmer than January 2024. Scientists had initially predicted a slightly cooler start to this year. Here's our climate correspondent, Jonah Fisher.
It might have felt a bit chilly here in the UK, but the world has just experienced the hottest January since records began. 2023 and 2024, it really has been significantly hotter. 18 of the last 19 months above that global target that we talk so much about of 1.5 degrees. January of this year, 0.1 degrees above the level from last year. So why is this interesting, climate scientists? Well, in short, they were not expecting it to be this hot. That's because of a naturally occurring weather phenomena that happens in the tropical Pacific. It's to do with sea temperatures, which have an impact on weather around the world. Now, it had been expected that the end of what's known as El Niño, which heats the world, and the start of what's known as La Niña, which has a cooling effect, would mean that temperatures didn't rise as much this year. But that hasn't happened in January, leaving scientists scratching their heads.
So the basic reason we're having records being broken and we've had this kind of uninterrupted decades-long warming trend is because we're increasing the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Until we stop doing that and until we in fact get to net zero, we're still going to be seeing record warm temperatures coming. The specifics of exactly why 2023 and 2024 and possibly 2025 were so warm, there are other elements involved there. We're trying to pin those down, but the big reason why we're so much warmer than the 19th century is because of carbon dioxide.
Scientists are now trying to work out just why this January was so hot. Was it just natural variation? Were other factors at play? Or could we have entered a new phase of accelerated global warming?
Hundreds of Bangladeshis clambered upon the remains of a building in Dhaka, which housed a museum belonging to the family of ousted former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina on Thursday. It was vandalized and torched the previous night by student protesters who voiced fury over her recent speech on social media. Hasina urged the people of Bangladesh to defy the interim government. She accuses it of seizing power in an unconstitutional manner. Many people were seen hammering down structures and chiseling at brick walls as they took apart what was left of the building. In August last year, Hasina was forced to flee to neighbouring India as protests against her rule killed more than 1,000 people. Since her departure, the government has struggled to maintain law and order. A symbol of the country's establishment, the house is where her father declared Bangladesh's independence from Pakistan in 1971. He and most of his family were assassinated at the house in 1975. Hasina, who survived the attack, transformed the building into a museum dedicated to her father's legacy.
You were listening to the WINN FM 98.9 newscast. Our top stories were Canadian High Commissioner Designate talks St-Kitts-Nevis relations and Trump tariffs.
Consumer Affairs Department report high compliance with VAT relief holiday.
ECCB and World Bank collaborate on resilient renewable energy infrastructure project. Grenada deportees will pose a serious challenge to country, says Senator. St. Lucians in U.S. fear deportation after rumors spread. Internationally, President Trump restates plan for U.S. takeover of Gaza, with Palestinians resettled in region. Thank you for listening.